Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Welcome back to my chapter reviews of Zombie Powder, and I just got off work, so hence the t-shirt. Alright, so this is going to be chapter 13, or track 13, I should say, and above everything else, this is a flashback chapter to Wolfina and Emilio's past. Okay, we had a lot of setup in the past couple chapters of exactly who Wolfina is, and this all culminated at the end of the last chapter when we found out that it was actually her brother that was the one that got eaten by the Ring of the Dead, and that was kind of the reason why, you know, she has this mentality that she has, and the reason why she's just trying to make all this money by being a journalist to help her brother. So now we get like an insight into that. So the chapter actually opens up in the middle of a flashback between Emilio and Wolfina when they were children. So we have Emilio climbing this old tree, and at the top of this tree, there's like a ring embedded in the trunk of the tree. So he's digging around it, and he's trying to find it, and he's just like, "Oh, look, sister, I got it for you." So Emilio, immediately after picking it up, though, he apparently becomes unconscious and just falls to the ground, and, you know, Wolfina rushes over to him to try to help her brother out. Now, from what we've learned with the Ring of the Dead from the last chapter, the Ring of the Dead will essentially feast off any kind of living creature or organism. It doesn't matter if it's a human, animal, or a plant. In this case, we have this tree, and the tree is clearly shown to be dead and decaying. It's a very old tree, and the ring is embedded in the top of it. So I guess Emilio, you know, pulled out the ring, and the ring began eating him. Now, interesting thing about this, because I think Gamma said last chapter, if you tried to remove the ring from its host, it would try to kill you, and that wasn't the case with Emilio here. Like, the hands didn't come out and try to kill him. My assumption for this is that that tree that it was feeding off of already was probably close to dying, or it was like, maybe it prefers humans to plants. Maybe it has some kind of preference. You know, judging by what Gamma said last chapter, it was almost as if the Rings of the Dead had some sort of, like, sentient mind, that they were aware of others, of the other rings and their existences, so maybe they each have, like, a different appetite, like a different thing they like to eat. You know, I don't know. But anyway, so we cut back to the present, where we have Gamma and the doctor kind of lying, you know, standing over Wolfina's brother Emilio's bed. We get the title of the chapter, the Birdcage Evergreen. And, you know, so he just begins expositing while Wolfina's still in the room, and she's not really saying much, while the doctor's just kind of telling Gamma, bringing him up to speed on his brother. So basically, they've been in this town for about a year. Wolfina has brought Emilio since, you know, I guess his accident occurred, you know, when they were little kids. You know, she's 18 now, so maybe like close to 10 years or so. They've been living in Alcatraz for about a year, and the doctor's been trying pretty much every method he can to try to bring Emilio out of his coma, but there's no way you can do it. And the doctor's like, well, now that we know what it is, though, he's been invaded by the Ring of the Dead. So the doctor brings up, he's like, oh, well, obviously, since that we know what the cause is now, there's no need to worry. We'll just remove the ring, we'll just do an operation, we'll cut the ring off, and everything will be hunky-dory, right? Yeah, Gamma's like, no, it won't be, because if you try that, it will kill you. He even brings up, like, did you not see what happened with me last chapter, like 5 minutes ago? This thing, it was invading my body. It was literally, it's not just like the ring is on my hand, it was just sucking my life force out. It was literally snaking its way, invading every corner of my body. Had I let it been the way it was, my entire body would have been run through by this thing. And pulling the thing out is a lot fucking easier said than done. I'm imagining Gamma was only able to do it because he had his right arm. You know, the right arm couldn't be eaten by the Ring of the Dead, and it was a lot stronger. And he just ripped that freaking thing out, and he's still, like, bleeding profusely in this chapter. I mean, that guy ruined his shirt. I feel really bad for him. That's a white shirt right there. Laundry day is going to be a nightmare. But he also brings up the fact that if you try to, like, remove the ring by force from this kid, who, like, the ring is clearly enjoying its meal very much, it will come out and it will literally kill you the same way it tried to kill me. But anyway, like, so Wolfina and the doctor are surprised by this, but Gamma goes on to the more pressing matter of Mystic, of Balmonk. He's saying, look, he said he's going to be back for this kid by tomorrow night. We need to move him, you know, like, immediately to another hospital. And the doctor's like, no, we're not going to do that, because I'm not going to move I'm not going to throw out a patient because a criminal's, you know, chasing after him. I cannot do such an irresponsible act. And the doctor's, like, very confident, like, I will protect this patient no matter what. So, you know, I understand his reasoning, like his Hippocratic Oath. You know, he's always around to help a patient out. He's not going to throw a patient out of the hospital to just get rid of this guy. I mean, the next hospital, for all intents and purposes, could be, you know, like, literally hundreds of miles away. Like, they're in the middle of this desert landscape. You know, the next town could be, you know, like, across, like, scorching hot desert, you know? Like, transporting him might not be that simple. I mean, they have buses, but their limits on life support and everything, I guess, are kind of limited at this point here. But the doctor said, no worries, because I'm going to figure out a way to remove the Ring of the Dead. Even after all this crap Gamma said about it, like, you're gonna die if you try, and the doctor's like, no, I'm a doctor, I'm gonna figure out a way. You know what? I was originally thinking this doctor was just gonna be like a secondary character, or just kind of like a character, that just was around. He's actually becoming very likable. He seems like the kind of doctor that, disregards any other kind of issue and just treats the person at hand. He doesn't really look at it like in terms of a money aspect, or even his own life is in danger. He always just looks at it like, I'm a doctor, my job is to help the sick, and that's what I'm gonna do until I die, even if I have to die trying. So I like his morals, his morality here, and he's also a very kind-hearted individual. But, so he's basically like, okay, Gamma says, okay, well, if that's how you feel, I obviously can't change your mind, I'm just gonna leave. And he's like, sorry for following around, and Gamma just leaves. Now, obviously, Gamma's not gone, he's not bailing on them, aside from that point, Emilio has the Ring of the Dead that Gamma wants. So, what I'm thinking he's gonna do is he's just gonna go back to the inn, he's gonna meet with Elwood and Smith, bring them up to speed on what's going on here, and they're gonna try to figure out a plan on how to defeat Balmonk and take the ring, or just trying to remove the ring in general, because if there's anyone that can figure out how to do it, I would hedge my bets on Gamma before the Doctor would have. But the Doctor reassures Wolfina, and she's like, don't worry, if I have to, I'm gonna work through the night, I'll figure out some way I can remove this thing without being killed, and we'll perform the operation in the morning before Balmonk comes back. And he's very confident, he's like, don't worry, I'll fix everything. The Doctor leaves the room, and he sees Gamma that's still walking down the hallway, like leaving the hospital, and the Doctor comes up behind him, and he's like, do you think I'm stupid? And Gamma's just like, no, I don't think you're stupid, you're just a doctor, I'm not one of them, so I really can't tell you how you feel. It's just that, from my perspective, I've told you what I know about the Rings of the Dead, and you still want to do it. I'm not going to say you won't be able to find a way, but that's just how I feel. And so the Doctor begins basically expositing the story that we saw at the beginning of the chapter of how Wolfina and Emilio, how Emilio found the ring and became unconscious. So he's basically telling the story to Gamma about how this works. So Emilio climbed this tree, he found the ring, and then he passed out. And he wanted to give the ring to Wolfina, I guess, as a gift or some such. So he hits the ground, and he's actually not unconscious yet. He's still conscious, but his hand is, really hurting, and he's really bleeding pretty bad. So Wolfina, takes out a part of her clothing, or, her shirt or something, and ties it around the wound, and begins carrying Emilio to the nearest hospital. Well, now, apparently, though, it's, the worst time for her to try this, because whatever town they're in at the time, apparently there's a guy, a politician, in the middle of the town giving a speech or something. I guess it was an election year, go figure, right? And apparently it's the Senate candidate, Ed Halfin. And apparently he has all this, all his posse set up here, everybody, all of his bodyguards and the police officers are, having this area security while this guy's giving his speech. And, I guess this police officer won't let Wolfina pass. The hospital, you can see the hospital. It's, literally on the other side of this, area where he's given this speech. And the police officer's just Senate candidate Halfin is making a speech. He used to be a former prosecutor, so there could be a lot of people trying to kill this guy. I can't even let you in, even if you are kids. And Wolfina's just my brother is bleeding profusely. Can I please just walk across to the hospital? And the guy's just nope, can't do it. There's a detour 1 kilometer that way. I'm like, dude, the hospital's right there. 1 kilometer, that's half a mile. And these are kids, and she's carrying her passed out brother on her back. I mean, my God. Now listen. Okay, listen. I don't want to say that, and the guy's a real dick about this. The police officer's a real douche. He's just he just hurt his hand. He's not going to die from that. He's bleeding a lot, but it's not like he has a head wound or something. And Wolfina even tries to, go under, try to sneak past him, and the guy just kicks her in the fucking stomach and knocks her back. I'm like, dude, dickweed. Okay, look at it this way, all right? Let's say this was President Obama. Let's say he was giving a speech in the middle of a town, all right? In those situations with a lot of security around, I can understand that even letting children that aren't cleared for, admittance into this thing through the area, through a secured area, because it's somebody that's really important. Now, this is just a Senate candidate. We're not talking about somebody that's not even in office yet. This is just a guy that's seeking office, but it's still somebody that garners a lot of security. Okay, that doesn't mean that the security detail have to be a bunch of dicks. Alright? So in any other situation, I think in any other situation, how this would have went down is, police officer, please help me, my brother's bleeding profusely, can I please cut across to the hospital? the officer might be like, I'm sorry, I can't let you do that. This is a secured location. But hey, guess what? I'll go to the nearest phone and I'll call you a fucking ambulance. Or, I don't know, hey Bill, go watch my post for a little bit while I go take this bleeding boy to the hospital. Or maybe something like that. There's other ways around this. I mean, they have technology. So even if cell phones aren't a thing, they could, the hospital is right there. Why can't the police officer just be like, okay, well, I have a car. You know, there's a lot of cars around here. Get into my car and I'll drive you. He's obviously bleeding pretty bad, you know? So, yeah, this security guy, this backstory is pretty sad, but this guy is just a douche. Like, this security guard, police officer, whatever the hell he is, he's a douche. So, anyway, Emilio comes to, and he holds up the ring to Wolfina, and he's just like, I got this ring for you. So he opens his hand, and the ring's no longer there. I'm assuming the ring either burrowed itself into his hand at this point or whatever. And he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, sister, I must have dropped it somewhere. So then he passes out, and apparently that was the last time he was conscious. After that, Emilio just passed out, and he was asleep until that moment. And from that moment, Wolfina swore that she would protect the weak from even the greatest strength. And we see an image of the Senate candidate here, like she wants to protect people from the powerful, like a Robin Hood type deal. I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but that wasn't the Senate candidate's fault. That wasn't that Dan Halfin's fault. You know, like going back to the situation with Obama, even if the police officer was a total dick and acted the same way, that's not Obama's fault. That's not like Obama was up there giving a speech. He's like, everybody, change is a great way, and Obamacare is an awesome thing that you should all believe in. Oh, what the hell's that kid doing over there trying to get in on my freaking press conference? Kick that bitch in the stomach. Get her out of there. Go on. Okay, so going back to my speech, you know, it wasn't Obama's fault. It wasn't this guy's fault. It was just probably like a really, the police officer or whatever. You know, maybe he was drunk or something. I don't know. But don't blame that guy. I would go like Batman on this guy's ass. I would grow up, Wolfina as she is now. I would track this guy down, sneak into his freaking house at night, hold your tripod to his freaking neck, and he'll wake up in a cold sweat, be like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm the wolf, bitch. And then just clock him in the face or something, But anyway, so the doctor begins expositing more about Wolfina's life after Emilio went into the coma and became a journalist. And the doctor's like, it's not easy for a girl this young to be a journalist in this day and age. It's not like today where you're a journalist, it's just a certain way it is now. This is like a lawless area where being a journalist means and you're basically risking your life every time you have to get a story. Like with Sacramento's gang. She got a story and she kind of blew it up and actually managed to hurt him out of the story. But she almost got killed out of the situation. Like he was riding around the desert like a freaking Mad Max, posse ready to like nail this bitch down. So it's a dangerous thing. So she's like, in the year that she's been in this town alone, just in this town, apparently she's been traveling around for a while, but she's come back to this hospital all beaten, broken. That was the norm. One time she even collapsed because she had 2 bullet wounds in her legs. Like she was shot in her legs, and the doctor's like patching her up like again and again and again, and we get to see her in underwear for some reason here, because I thought doctors put you in gowns when you're admitted to the hospital, not panties and a sports bra, but okay, whatever. I'm just gonna... Okay, whatever. So, so this is where Wolfina's mentality comes from, I guess I should say. This is where the whole, I gotta defend the downtrodden from the evil people of this world. The wicked are the people that should be, brought to justice, and that's where my aspect of justice, Power Ranger type mentality comes from. So, now she's that's how she got like the way she is now. It's a very interesting backstory here, and the doctor's just you can see that he's like acting like a father figure for Wolfina. He really is, because he's just like, he hates seeing her like this, but he also is like doubting himself because he wasn't able to heal Emilio in any way. He can't help Emilio. The only way Wolfina can be stopped from getting hurt and going off into enemy territory is for Emilio to get healed there. And that's the only reason, like, she's there for her brother. That's, like, the only reason she's there is just for her brother, just to help him out just a little bit. And in this case, there's no difference, because she realizes that if she stays here, Balmunk is going to come back, and he might very well kill the doctor and anyone else in the hospital. So, later that night, when I guess no one is looking, she leaves a note for the doctor, she picks up Emilio, carries him out of the hospital toward her bike. She has a motorcycle, and I guess she has, like, a thing in the back, like a bed or something, like a trolley or something in the back of her motorcycle, puts Emilio in it, and she's about ready to leave, I guess, and just get out of town, just get the hell out of Dodge. So she hears a noise like in front of her motorcycle, motorcycle, so she turns on its light, and it illuminates a shadowy figure, and then she's just, like, looking up, and she's like, oh, you are! And then we cut to the end of the chapter. So, that's the end of chapter number 13. This was a long one, I'm sorry. This was going back to a longer review, but a lot of stuff really happened here. We finally got a light into Wolfina's character, and why she was like this, like I said, I've always liked her character, but I'm glad they, Kubo exposited more on that whole aspect of why she's, like, so, like, oh, justice is everything, because there's a lot of typical shonen characters like that just are like that just for the sake of it, and Wolfina's not like that, she's doing it just all for her brother's sake, which makes a lot of sense. So, as for the shadowy figure, I want to, I don't want to say... figuring it might be Balmonk, it probably is, considering the fact that, she's leaving the town. I mean, he said, I'll be back tomorrow night, but he's a freaking villain. He's a freaking antagonist. He's not going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow night, and you can hold me to that. I'm a man of my word. You can clearly tell by my snidely whiplash mustache. So, it might be Balmonk, it might be Gamma, it might be maybe Smith or something. It just shows up. It's like, hey, yeah, Gamma told me to talk to you. But obviously the fact she's not just going to leave and get off, like, all happily ever after, because even if it isn't Balmonk, Gamma still needs the ring. He needs to get it off Amelia somehow if he wants all 12 of them. So yeah, hopefully we'll find that out next chapter. Hopefully things will get more interesting now in terms of battles. I really hope so. Hope we get to that with a neat little climactic battle with Balmonk and stuff. So that'd be pretty cool. Like, it's Balmonk. He's like, you're leaving town, my dear. I want that ring of the dead. And then Gamma shows up with his sword and Smith and Elwood. He's like, okay, bring it on, man. So I'm hoping that gets to that. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Tekking101 signing out. See you guys.